Movies that you didn't know were based on DC Comics. Although DC is mostly noted for their dark heroes and darker villains, they always didn't produce superhero comics. Sometimes, a comic series can be a political ideology, a fairy tale, or even an action mobster. DC subsidiaries and imprints, such as Vertigo Comics, published several issues that were far from superheroic, and included themes of crime, history, etc., and of course, these comics were turned into live-action movies such as V For Vendetta, To Perdition, etc., and despite being critical and commercial successes, only a handful of people know that these movies were based on DC Comics. And that is exactly why we made this video, to introduce you to the top 7 movies that you didn't know were based on DC Comics. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to us. It may be a small click for you, but it goes a long way for us. Let's begin, shall we? Number 1, V For Vendetta, 2006. The movie begins with a flashback of Guy Fawkes' execution in 1600s England upon attempting to overthrow the then Parliament. In futuristic Great Britain, Evie gets ready to go out while listening to Prothero, reminding the audience why the Norse Fire government weeded out the population and set up a rigid system under Adam Sutler based on religion and faith. Meanwhile, a masked character mirrors Evie's actions elsewhere. Evie walks through an alley where she is stopped by the Fingermen, the Norse Fire secret police, who, under the pretense of chastising her for walking past curfew, attempt to rape her. The masked man coincidentally arrives and dispatches the Fingerman, rescuing Evie and taking her to a nearby rooftop with a view of the Old Bailey. Introducing himself as V, he speaks about his intention to commemorate the 5th of November as a way to end the tyrannical rule of the government. As Big Ben chimes at midnight, Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture is played across loudspeakers all over London. At the crescendo, the Old Bailey is destroyed with an explosion. V laughs maniacally as Evie looks on in horror, unaware that this is only a glimpse of what V had in store for her and the Parliament. Based on the limited series 600 Vertigo Comics of the same name written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Lloyd, the comics ran from 1982 to 1989. It was adapted into a dystopian political film by Warner Brothers, scheduled to release on 4th of November 2005, a day before the 400th Guy Fawkes Day. It was postponed to 17th of March 2006. Unlike other film adaptations of Moore's works, V For Vendetta received positive reviews, critical success, and a box office success. The cast has been praised for their excellent acting, and it is known to be the best comic rendition so far. As someone who loves watching comics come to life, I urge you to watch this movie. Number 2, Stardust, 2007. Dunstan meets Una when he tricks the guard of a barrier known as the Wall, separating the magical kingdom of Stormhold from the rest of England. Charmed, they spend a night together. A year later, Dunstan receives a Babylon candle and a letter from Una, along with a child in a basket, claiming that it was their son Tristan. Years later, the dying king of Stormhold throws a ruby into the sky and decrees that whichever of his sons were to get the ruby first would rule the kingdom. The ruby hits a star, and they together plummet from the sky onto the ground. Tristan, now a young man, sees the objects fall from the sky and, in an attempt to win his lover's hand at marriage, claims to bring her back the objects. He teleports with the Babylon candle but magically ages into a grown adult. He soon realizes he and the princes aren't the only ones pursuing the star. Stardust is the film adaptation of Neil Gaiman's 1999 fantasy novel published by DC Comics. It was a limited series edition by Gaiman and Charles Vess. Ben Barnes is a fan favorite, and Charlie Cox was allowed to shine in the industry through this, as claimed by director Matthew Vaughn. The script is witty and fun, with plenty of fantastical elements brought to life with decent VFX. This movie has celestial imagery like the moon and the stars, immortality, and crossing thresholds to other worlds, which are all Gaiman's themes. Robert De Niro, as a pirate captain, steals the show. It is a magical fairy tale fun to watch after a long day when you want to teleport far away. Number 3, The Losers 2010. An elite Black Ops team known as the Losers under the US Special Forces is commissioned to Bolivia to take out a drug lord. The group, consisting of Roque, Jensen, Pooch, and Cougar led by Clay, is meant to mark the area for an airstrike when they discover 25 slave children in the compound. Hastily they try to call off the airstrike, but their superior Max ignores them. The Losers take it upon themselves to rescue the children, kill the drug lord, and escape. They send the children in the rescue chopper first, preparing to go next, when Max orders a missile attack on the helicopter. As the team watches in horror, they realize they have been double-crossed as that missile was meant to take them out.
That's supposed to be us.
They decide to fake their deaths by throwing their dog tags into the burning wreckage. Stranded in Bolivia with no papers or funds to get back home, the Losers try to make the best of what was available and survive. Months later, Clay is approached by Aisha, who claims to be able to send the team home if they join hands with her to kill Max. They attack a convoy that claimed to transport Max but retrieve only an encrypted hard drive containing Max's secrets for Aisha. The Losers must decrypt the hard drive to find out what Max's real deal is and find out who Aisha really is and her role in everything. The Losers is a comic book series by Andy Diggle and Jock, which ran 32 issues between 2003 and 2006, based on the War on Terror. In the comics, the team was integrated with the CIA in the 90s, where they are betrayed by their handler and left for dead, and the comics follow their run for revenge. The plot is simplistic and comic-based, with excellent dialogue delivery, sardonic jokes, and constant fast-paced action. The cast is well put together to bring out bouts of humor and seriousness whenever and wherever needed. It's a fun and fast movie to watch when you need to revive some action in your life. Number 4, The Kitchen, 2019. Three couples from the O'Carroll crime family live in Hell's Kitchen, a Manhattan neighborhood. Kathy and Jimmy have 2 kids, Ruby and Kevin, who only want to take over the family business, Claire and Rob. When the men rob a convenience store one night, they're busted by FBI agents Martinez and Silvers and are sentenced to 3 years prison time, leaving little Jackie to take over the mob. The women are assured that they will be taken care of, but once they find out their money is going into other pockets, they step up and take over the businesses, gaining all the profits themselves. Little Jackie finds out about this, and enraged, he threatens them, and assaults Claire until Ruby recruits Gabriel O'Malley, former mobster, to finish him. The 3 women begin running the neighborhood with the guidance of Gabriel. This newfound authority works well for the women until their husbands' old business partners raise new troubles. While they're busy tackling it, 3 years pass by, and the women have only 4 months before the men return home from prison. The movie portrays comic book feelings from the start, touching on modern social sentiments through female empowerment. It is based on the DC Vertigo Comics, and the cast expresses the actual South Bronx feeling from the late 70s. At first glance, it's not entirely understood that it's a DC movie, but that is what makes it different from the standard DC movie. Number 5, Road to Perdition, 2002. The film is a flashback from Michael Sullivan Jr.'s point of view, about his father Sullivan Sr. and his adopted family of gangsters. Sullivan is raised by Irish mob boss Rooney and is loved even more than Rooney's biological son Connor. This leads to Connor being bitter towards Sullivan. Years later, Sullivan is married to Annie, and they have 2 sons, Michael and Peter. On an errand from Rooney, Sullivan and Connor go to speak to an associate, where things go sour, and the men are forced to shoot everyone present, eliciting a shocked reaction from little Michael, who was hiding, causing Sullivan to swear him to secrecy.
Do you understand?
Rooney comes by to intimidate Michael so he'd keep his mouth zipped, but Michael throws a fit. Later on, Rooney openly insults Connor for his associate's death.
That's right. You think it's funny? Try again.
And sends Sullivan on his behalf to collect a debt. Connor, enraged and jealous, sends out a hit for Sullivan, who narrowly escapes it. Finding out about the hit, he rushes home to see his wife and younger son murdered. Michael had arrived home late. The movie is then a wild chase of the father-son duo evading death traps while exacting revenge for Sullivan's past. The movie is filled with gore, thrill, and action. Tom Hanks, Daniel Craig, and Jude Law do a fine job impersonating the mob mentality, once again proving their versatility and excellence.
Makes you feel alive, don't it?
It is a movie that starts slow but gets more interesting by every quarter of the film. Number 6, A History of Violence, 2005. The film begins with Leland and Orsa at a motel in Midwest USA. Unlikely traveling partners with Leland in his 50s and Orsa in his 20s, the movie takes a gory turn when we see both men murder people in a sinister calm, doing mundane activities such as drinking water or walking in the corridor. Next, we are introduced to Tom and Edie, parents to Jack and Sarah, in a small-town diner owned by Tom. Jack is seen to be bullied, and this act is noticed by a passing Leland and Orsa, who enter the diner. Tom tries to tell Leland that the diner is closed when he asks for a coffee, but he ends up making it upon being threatened. Orsa attacks a waitress and gropes her, and when Tom tries to offer up the cash, he tells Orsa to kill her. In a mad rush of adrenaline, Tom retrieves Leland's gun and kills Orsa and Leland, and the media declares him a hero. Soon, 3 burly-looking men land up at the diner, looking for Joey. Tom denies vehemently that he isn't Joey.
Yes, sir. Joey.
But he's got his own dark secrets. The movie is intense and gory, filled with thrill and plot twists. Viggo Mortensen does a fantastic job as a doting husband and father and a Rambo-like killer at the same time. It brings out the excitement and eagerness of the audience, putting one on the edge of their seats. Watch this one when you feel like a rush of adrenaline. Number 7, Red, 2010. Frank Moses is a former CIA agent who is busy relaxing and adjusting to retirement. He lives off the government pension and celebrates the simple things in life, like decorating his home for Christmas. This peaceful life is disrupted one day when heavily armed assailants attack and destroy Frank's home. Back on high alert, Frank rushes to protect Sarah, a woman at the pension department he'd been seeing for a while.
Why would anyone want to kill me?
With the help of the Russians, Frank breaks into the CIA facility and searches for his file, only to find it tagged red. Confused, he contacts his old friends Joe, Marvin, and Victoria, all under the same file. They soon find out that the word red stands for retired and extremely dangerous. The movie starts dull and suburban, and then it takes an action-filled turn almost immediately. Bruce Willis doesn't disappoint as the action lead, but the supporting cast graces the movie with their excellent presence and spectacular acting. While some things may not make sense, the film is one action-packed jam with bouts of fun. It is suggested to watch this after a long day when you want to enjoy some action with a bucket of a few chilled ones. That was all in this video. Do hang around for similar informative videos and movie suggestions. Take care, and have a good one.